The B.S Report is a free-flowing conversation that occasionally touches on mature subjects.
First of all,
This is the B.S Report with Bill Simmons.
it might be cool, I don't know. And if it's not, I don't care.
The B.S Report with Bill Simmons.
Bill Simmons works for ESPN. He's also named the sports guy, and he writes a comical sports column. He must be a popular dude.
The B.S Report.
It's got a real dirty sound, like a rusty steak knife cutting through a well-aged steak.
Now.
Here's Bill Simmons.
Welcome to the B.S Report. Sunny Monday here in Southern California. We're going to talk some baseball today. Calling my buddy JackO, Yankee fan. He's very happy these days. Yankees have an 8-game lead in the AL East. We're going to talk about the Red Sox, the Yankees, the pennant race, the All-Star break, the Royals' vicious booing of Robinson Cano, the ESPYs, and whatever else we can think of. Let's give him a ring.
Complex Litigation, this is John.
Johnny,
What's up, buddy?
how are you?
Good, thanks. You?
I'm all right.
Yeah?
It's the Red Sox. There's been some sniping.
Yeah,
They finally got their revenge on Euclid. The smear campaign has begun.
totally. It's in full swing now.
Yeah, it was almost like they pressed the hiatus button on the smear campaign for 2 weeks or 3
Yeah.
weeks, however long it was, and now it's in full swing. So that'll
Yeah.
be good.
Bobby V started it up.
The last time we talked, I think we even predicted that Euclid would hit for the White Sox, didn't we?
Well, I thought he would not. I thought he was shot.
Oh, I
thought-
predicted it.
You predicted it, so that's kudos to you. He's played well.
I don't even think it was that great of a. I just thought it was a pretty obvious prediction.
Just
Like
to
you
change
leave
the
a
scenery and
Yeah, you leave a bad situation. You go to a much better situation.
Mhm.
And also, he was banged up, too. And, it feels weird to watch him on another team.
see him in a different uniform and everything.
Yeah, baseball especially it's strange because of the everyday aspect of it. And then, when he had that little run there, when he had a couple game-winning hits or, go-ahead hits or whatever, and there was one, like they did the big circle where everybody jumped on him. It's just,
Yeah. He had a couple game-winning hits in a row, I think.
Who was the last Yankee that you liked that went to another team and
Well,
then succeeded? Usually
I don't
the
wanna-
Yankees. Well,
I don't want to blaspheme by comparing these two in any regard, but it's weird for me still to see Mattingly in a Dodgers uniform
yeah.
because he was sort of, my formative years in high school of really being a baseball fan. I mean, I freaking loved Don Mattingly.
Right.
So to see him in another uniform is troubling.
Yeah. And Don Mattingly had a much bigger impact on Yankee fans than Euclid
Right.
had on the Red Sox fans. Euclid
Right.
was just a guy we liked. He wasn't like an icon or anything.
I'm trying to think of like a Yankees player that recently that they've departed with that came back in another uniform, and I was troubled by.
A.J. Burnett?
No, that was the complete opposite feeling. I want to pay for his ticket out of town.
He's actually doing pretty good on the Pirates, isn't he?
I know, he's like a mentor for their young staff. I get tweets all the time about A.J. Burnett. Yeah, he's settled into a nice home there.
Mentor and A.J. Burnett are two different word phrases that I never thought I'd see in the same sentence.
Right, speaking of things that shouldn't be in the same sentence, right?
Yeah. Well, It looks like your beloved Yankees are pulling away.
Knock on wood, yeah, they've played well. They've been on a hot streak, and they've hung in there even with the loss of Sabathia. Now petted, unfortunately, so they're running Freddie Garcia out there every fifth day. Although Sabathia is coming back this week, I think, so that helps. But yeah, they've been playing well. The offense is good. They had a clutch hit the other day from Mark Teixeira. I wasn't watching it at the time, which is good because I might have keeled over. I learned about it on Twitter and thought that was more proof for the Mayans. Really could be heading for that apocalypse.
You always kill Mark Teixeira, and yet he's headed for a 500 slugging and 30 home runs this year.
I know. He does it quietly, though, I think. Like, I never remember any big circle. He had a big game against the Red Sox. Let me put a caveat in there before I say he never has any big moments. He did have a big game, that game when the Yankees came back from 8-0 and 9-1 to win the game that almost finished off the Red Sox single-handedly this season in April. He did have a big game there, and he's had a couple of big hits here and there, so he's coming around. It's just his slow start and seeming lack of clutchness, if that's a word, it just wears me down, basically, for what he was supposed to be.
I was in Kansas City last week.
Yeah, All-Star game.
And I was there for the home run derby, the vitriolic booing of Robinson Cano.
I know, I have to confess, I didn't watch any of the home run derby, and I was like, oh, the home run derby's on, and I forget what I was watching or doing, and then I flipped the channel, and it was just in time to see Robinson Cano bat, and the crowd was really ugly. Like, Sabathia and Granderson had to go out and, like, settle down poor Jose Cano, Robinson Cano's father, who was pitching.
I know.
The crowd was so ugly and overwhelming, and I took to Twitter, not knowing the circumstances, that apparently Cano foolishly had promised that he would select the Kansas City Royal for the AL home run hitting team.
Yeah.
And then reneged on that promise. So the crowd was vitriolic, and I went to Twitter and said it's the most Royals fans have had to cheer for about since 1985.
Oh, I bet that didn't go over well.
No, I'm not very popular in Kansas City anymore.
It was funny. We did, the celebrity game was Sunday night. We had to announce it. Bill Self came up. First of all, it was sold out. That had to have been the first time the softball game was ever sold out. But when Bill Self came up, it was really, really loud, like booing. It was insane.
Yeah.
And then the next night it continued with the Cano thing. I have a feeling that the Royals fans might have gone off the deep end a little bit.
Well, they went a little, and then apparently during the All-Star game, I don't know the specifics of it, but I saw in the newspaper or on ESPN where Cano was fired up because they heckled his family, like when they went to the bathroom or the concession stand during the All-Star game.
Right.
I mean, you really got to get over the home run derby, Kansas City. I mean, I realize it's been a long drought, but take it easy,
Yeah, it's very provincial there. It's interesting. I always like looking at the jerseys and stuff. When you're at an opposing ballpark, and you'll see, depending where you are, like you go to, a Tennessee Titans game, and you'll see like a ton of like the McNair throwbacks. Maybe you'll see a couple old Vince Youngs. You'll see some Jake Locker, whatever. It kind of gives you a feel for who is popular, who is popular. Yeah. Royal fans, it was like a smattering. Like there was like a couple Moustakas. There was like just a couple Hosmers, and then like, a lot of like George Brett throwback type stuff.
Oh,
and
sure.
Then,
you got to go George Brett, sure.
And then just people like, it was mostly people wearing Royals t-shirts.
Well, that makes sense, really, because if you're a Royals fan, you can't invest in the, $125, $150 jersey for a guy that once he hits free agency is gone.
Hey, listen, I'll tell you, it kind of made me reevaluate my bitterness toward the Red Sox. Won 2 World Series in the last 8 years. They spend $170 million a year, and all I do is bitch and complain. And I looked at these poor Royal fans sitting in 110-degree heat wearing a Moustakas t-shirt jersey. I'm like, oh man, this could be a lot worse.
Run derby.
Yeah,
I was still bitter about the Robinson Cano booing because I yield to no one in my love of Robinson Cano. So I missed the beginning of the All-Star game. The only part of the All-Star game I really like is the introductions for some reason.
Yeah.
So I wanted to see that, and I forgot about it, and I missed that part. And so I watched the game, and I think they showed a replay, or maybe I saw it live, of George Brett throwing out the ceremonial first pitch.
Yeah.
So then I made another hateful joke on Twitter where I said, was there any controversy about which Royals great was going to throw out the first pitch, either George Brett or Don Denkinger?
Oh,
it's really just,
Johnny, why are you going after the Royals fans?
I didn't care for their treatment of Cano, so I really thought that was brutal. And then I was kind of thinking about it, and I'm like, if not George Brett, like who would throw out the first pitch in Kansas City? Is there any other logical choice? There's none whatsoever, right?
Yeah, it's a drop off. You could say Sabes, maybe a little Sabes.
Yeah, but he played for like 15 teams besides the Royals.
He had a nice He had at least a 10-year run with the Royals.
Yeah, he was solid. I mean, that's where he made his money and his claim to fame as being a Royal, certainly. But I mean, Amos Otis, where else are you going?
Hal McRae.
But I mean, really, it's George Brett. I mean, I would think it's kind of like when we went to Green Bay in '06 and everybody in Lambeau was wearing a Favre jersey.
Yes.
I mean, George Brett has to just corner the jersey market in Kansas City, I would think.
George Brett very smartly, he came on the podcast last week, very smartly settled in Kansas City.
Oh yeah, he's got to be the king. He probably hasn't like paid for dinner or a drink since what, like 1981, 1980?
Right. He should like try to live in, I don't know, some other random city for a year. I think he'd be shocked.
He probably has like 5 free country club memberships to like every country club within the 30-mile radius of Kansas City.
Yeah.
They probably didn't have to buy his house, you know?
He walks around like Joffrey in Game of Thrones. Oh, you don't watch that show?
No, I don't. No,
Oh,
I'm not
yeah.
a big fan of the Lord of the Rings. Yeah,
No, it's not a Lord of the Rings. You should
I
watch
know.
that
I just
show.
say that to get your goat every time you tell me to watch that.
Paul Splittorff, Larry Gura,
Yeah.
Dennis Leonard. Yeah, you're right. It would have been slim pickings.
Dan Quisenberry was a big player, but he unfortunately passed away. So he,
Oh, yeah, the quiz.
70s.
Yeah, I would put Sabes 2.
But it's like a distant second.
Oh, it's a super distant second.
Oh yeah, I mean it's not even an issue.
Maybe Quisenberry 3.
Yeah, but he's
Might be. Yeah. No, I'm just saying.
I'm talking about like first pitch, who could throw out the first pitch. I mean, if you're the Red Sox, you could wheel out, Bobby Dorr or Johnny Pesky or Yaz or, there's the Yankees. I mean, there's a plethora of people to choose from.
Ted Williams' head.
Exactly. But if you're the Royals, I mean, it's George Brett or, if George was out of town that day, I guess there was just no first pitch.
The All-Star Game. I don't think I've watched the All-Star Game in like 10 years. I'm like you. I like the intros. I like the camera getting super close to everybody.
Yeah.
I like hearing who gets cheered. I like when there's a random guy in the game every year who just gets attacked by the fans to show his
Right.
Cano. That's always fun. But once the actual game starts, you know what's really awful? Like when it was 8-0 in the ninth inning and they're just burning pitchers. Like each guy's pitching for one batter, then you got to watch a pitching change. It's like, come on, end this thing
it's
for
brutal.
God's sakes. I don't know how I'd fix it though.
Well, that's just it. I mean, I don't know what you do. The only thing that I think you could do to make it more interesting is if, like, players had to put up their own money into a pot or something. Like, there was a pot of $500,000 and every guy had to kick in $10,000 and it was for all the money. But then guys would, like, get hurt. So you don't really want that. I don't want somebody trying to stretch a single into a double and, like, ripping their hamstring apart or something in the All-Star game. But
do you think? Do you like my idea that we should vote for all-star finishers instead of all-star starters?
yeah, who ends the game?
Yeah, the last 5 innings.
Yeah.
The guys who play the last 5 instead of the first 5.
Yeah, that would mix it up, I suppose.
I guess it wouldn't really make that much of a difference. Maybe the losing team, you have to relegate one team to AAA.
Yeah, that would be pretty good.
Could be interesting. Oh no, the American League is lost. The Royals are going to be relegated.
Yeah, the Royals fans would really have something riding on the game then. They really would have booed Cano.
Yeah. You know what's interesting about Kansas City? Like, look, the barbecue's good.
Yeah.
It's not. I'm not going to be telling my grandkids about it.
Doesn't
It was
change
good.
your life. Yeah.
It was really good barbecue. I don't know why that's the first they mention. If it were up to me, I'd mention the casinos. Who knew Kansas City had casinos?
Oh, they do? Like a riverboat casino deal? Or?
No, they had real casinos.
Oh, really?
Don't think Jacoby and I didn't go to one.
I can imagine.
We went to one, it was called it was whatever the good one was. It wasn't the Harrah's. There's another one like 5 minutes further away from downtown than the Harrah's. And we went down there and we got killed at a blackjack's table, and we played some craps. Jacoby caught fire.
Nice.
And we had everything going. The dealers were nice. It was fun. Kansas City should be promoting the casino factor.
Was George Brett one of the greeters?
No. Willie Wilson was there. No, I mean, I'm not going to say it was the most uplifting crew of people at the casino.
Well, I wouldn't expect it to be.
But I think all casinos qualify for that statement.
Of course.
I do think the other thing in Kansas City, I think the steaks are even better than the barbecue there.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. The Kansas City stockyards and all that, the meat, I would think, that would be legendary for that.
I would play up steaks and casinos, and then barbecue would be my third thing. The other thing about KC, like, they're renovating it. It's one of those cities they're renovating. Oklahoma City was like this too, where they're renovating it, but they're renovating it during one of the biggest weeks for the city.
Yeah, that's not.
You got to get that. You got to get that going before people get there. You know, like we were staying at the Kansas City Sheraton, which was under renovation. It's like, really? You couldn't have renovated it before the baseball All-Star game that you knew was coming for 10 years?
You know why? Because the construction companies were adding on to George Brett's house before that. So.
Right.
He wanted a new pool finished in time for the summer.
People were super nice, though, and I will say very hot.
Really?
Pretty hot.
Yeah.
if I'm a baseball free agent, not sure I'd want to spend my summers toiling in the heat of
KC.
But St. Louis is just as hot, right?
I would think so. Yeah, it's just across the state. Interesting.
You know what else was disappointing? I thought the waterfalls would give me more chills in person.
It didn't.
Well, remember when we were kids, the KC had the waterfalls?
Deal, sure.
Yeah, it was like one of the only the only two unique things other than like the wall and the ivy at Wrigley were the Bernie Brewer slide and the waterfalls at KC. And other than that, every stadium looked the same.
Right. Yeah, the waterfall was always a big deal. And the Royals were good in the allergy season. In the late 70s, early 80s, they used to kill the Yankees.
Yeah.
They were like a huge rival for the Yankees. So I had a lot of bitterness as a child against the Royals. So I was happy I could bring that back out again.
Yeah, you had some knockdown dragouts with the Royals.
Big time. And, of course, the famous pine tar thing, and then the Yankees got screwed on that call. That was a little shady to use that. I don't think it helped them hit the home run, obviously. So
they had a couple great moments.
I had a lot of bitterness inside me about the Royals. I'm glad I could unleash it.
They had a couple great moments that would be awesome to watch on YouTube if baseball allowed their clips on YouTube, but they don't because they want to antagonize anyone under 25. But
exactly.
The George Brett, Greg Nettles fight at third base when both guys were allowed to stay in the game, which
right.
George and I talked about on our podcast last week. Just a classic moment. There should be a whole YouTube channel for fights where people were allowed to stay in the game after the fight ended because it's just dumbfounding to watch now. Like now you'd be suspended for 20 days.
Right.
These guys are like, hey, sorry about the fight. They're standing next to each other at third base. And then Chambliss in 76, he hit the game winner or
That's
the series winner. And he's running through, and that was like the height of the era when drunk people just ran on the field.
Yeah, somebody took his helmet, I think, or something. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's running the bases and like punching Yankee fans that are getting in his way and knocking them over and like defending himself. Really, one of the more exciting trots around the bases I think we've ever seen. Don't you think?
It's an interesting time when you hit the game-winning homer and you're probably bummed out because you're like, I could get stabbed between second and third base by some crazed fan right now.
How did you feel about Reggie going after A-Rod?
Well, I mean, going after is a little strong. I read the article in Sports Illustrated, and I knew it was going to be controversial, but I mean, it sort of had to be dragged kicking and screaming out of him. He was very eager to say who belongs in the Hall of Fame and who doesn't. And I like the fact when they're like, is Burt Blyleven a Hall of Famer? And he had 8 no's. No. Like it was the most obvious thing in the world. And then when they said, he's like, these guys are tainted by steroid numbers, and they said, well, he mentioned some guys. He said McGuire or Bonds or whatever, and then they're like, what about A-Rod? And he was like, oh, well, he's a friend, and geez,
Right.
So I don't think it was he didn't volunteer that. The way I read it, it was sort of like the writer brought it up, and he's like, well, he's a friend, and he works for the Yankees, and the same thing about Pettit. So he was put in an awkward position because I don't think he thought of those guys right off the top of his head.
Wow, that kind of felt like a Reggie Jackson defense.
Which is troubling because I never liked Reggie Jackson even when I was a kid. I never thought he was a real Yankee. And I mean, when you start off your Yankee career and you're killing Thurman Munson and saying how they've had no leadership and you're the straw that stirs the drink and just, I'm the superstar and I bring my superstar with me and all that. So I never cared for Reggie. And, he played for the team for 5 minutes comparatively in his career. So the fact that his numbers retired bothers me, and that he was Steinbrenner's buddy, so he became a special advisor, and whatever his job is to hang out by the batting cage and tell stories with them or whatever. But so I
arguably came through at the most iconic moment in the history of your franchise.
Well, I don't know the most, but there's a lot of iconic moments in the history of the Yankees. The 3 home runs deal, no question about it, was a great moment. And
what would you put over the 3 home run game?
Well, I mean, Don Larson's perfect game was probably more iconic. Babe Ruth hitting 60 homers, Maris hitting 61, Lou Gehrig's speech.
There's a Lou Gehrig speech and the Larson perfect game. You're right. The perfect game was amazing.
Perfect game in a World Series?
Yeah, there's been 20 perfect games. He threw one in the World Series.
Exactly. I mean, obviously against the best competition because they're in the World Series.
Yeah, you're right. Gehrig goes 1.
Yeah.
Don Larson 2. I think Reggie's 3.
There's 3 home runs in the World Series. Yeah, there's and
in the clinching
3
game.
Swings, three swings, 3 pitches, clinching game. Yeah, it's up there.
And then but all the crap he took that year, and then the fact that the third one went the furthest, I thought was always the most impressive. He hit the third one in the black.
Yeah, no, that was no joke. I mean, there was, he was a good hitter. Obviously, he was a good home run hitter, but he was an all or nothing guy too. I mean, he has 4 million strikeouts.
What about his Naked Gun performance? Does that hurt or help your thoughts about him?
I did like that he went after the Queen of England, so I fully support that.
He has had one of the best balding afros, I think, in the history of sports. It totally receded on the sides. It almost looked like the peninsula of Florida. I always enjoyed that.
He was an athlete who played with glasses, like not even like the rec specs, but like the full-on just eyeglasses.
That's true. How many baseball hitters played with glasses?
Well, back in that era, there was a few, like Rick Russell.
No, but not the ones he played with. Like it almost looked like reading glasses.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was impressive feat too. But yeah, so I really
enjoyed Reggie Jackson. As a Red Sox fan, he kept me on my toes. I'll never forget when he fought with Billy in the dugout, or almost fought, or whatever they did. I was actually watching that game. That was a Saturday afternoon game
at Fenway.
That was incredible. It was like, what just happened? They're pointing and they're being separated. It was incredible.
That's one of those things that if it happened nowadays with Twitter and sports radio and ESPN and First and 10. I mean, it would be talked about for how long? 6 months? That would be debated, talked about.
Yeah, Reggie missed his calling. He would have been an incredible internet athlete.
Oh yeah, with him with a Twitter feed, my God, he got enough trouble without Twitter. Imagine with Twitter. Good Lord.
Forget how famous he was though, because I linked to it a few weeks ago that a box of his Reggie candy bars was for sale on eBay.
Oh really?
Went for like $500. I couldn't believe it.
Unopened bars.
Yeah, it was like 36 unopened Reggie bars or whatever with the box. It's pretty cool. But the fact that he had a candy bar was kind of incredible.
Yeah, that was a big deal at the time. I remember being a kid, and that was a huge deal, yeah.
Who would have a candy bar now out of any baseball player?
Oh, baseball. I think you're going to say athlete.
No, there would definitely be a LeBron candy bar, and I'm surprised there's not.
Yeah, or Kobe one, yeah. I mean, baseball, there'd probably be a Jeter candy bar, I'm sure, but I mean...
I don't think so. I don't think he would do that.
He probably wouldn't, but...
Kobe would do a candy bar, but it would only be available in Italy and China.
And cost $4,000.
He would never sell it in America.
Solid gold wrapper or something.
But, the candy bar, I don't know. Reggie... Some of these guys that played in that era now are almost becoming underrated, like how huge they were. Like when I just feel like A-Rod and people like that, they didn't have A-Rod does not have the charisma that Reggie had.
No, he has he's the polarizing figure that Reggie was.
Right.
But he's not, he doesn't come out and pound his chest and say, I'm the greatest. I mean, Reggie had a little Ali in him in terms of he certainly didn't shy away from talking about how wonderful he thought he was,
Right.
That was part of the problem because the other Yankee guys were more like, dirt dogs, to coin a phrase of the day, and went about their business and were scruffy or whatever, and then he came in and thought he was going to run the show, but did get him over the hump to win 2 World Series after they got swept by the Reds in '76, so...
I think Reggie coming after Thurman Munson was probably the dumbest career move that the dumbest benevolent career move that any athlete has done that I can remember.
Right.
I mean, it was ultimately harmless, but wow, was that stupid. People love Thurman Munson.
Absolutely, and they loved Billy Martin too at the time, so it became like a Mantle-Maris thing where there was a split because Mantle was quote-unquote our guy if you were like a true blue Yankee fan. Same thing with Reggie because Munson and Billy Martin were true blue Yankees, and then Reggie came in and it's like Jeter and A-Rod now. Everybody true blue Yankee is Jeter, and then A-Rod is like this usurper that came in. So there's always bitterness about that. So
we were talking about whether Reggie, Billy Steinbrenner, that whole era, even though it was kind of captured a little in the Bronx and Burning miniseries, which is 4 hours too long. That would be pretty interesting, 30 for 30. And we'd probably end up not doing it because there's 30 ideas that people that are out there that haven't really been tapped into. But just Billy and George, just that whole 6-year thing was kind of incredible.
Oh yeah, that was a weird dynamic, no question about it.
I'd be interested to see that in a documentary form, but it almost needs like more time to pass away from the miniseries.
Yeah.
Maybe
I
like
mean,
2015.
there's been like a million books about all that, and it's just like, especially looking back, like it's something that it's one of those times that can't be recreated because you could never have that kind of animosity in a clubhouse like that anymore. Probably not. I don't think you could in this day and age with the way the media is.
You know, speaking of New York, Piazza was at the ESPYs.
Oh yeah.
That 9/11 homer he hit, it really has kind of gained steam.
Has it?
It's almost like it's kind of become it's weird. I always thought the Yankees winning Game 4 and 5 in the World Series would kind of be the defining sports moment of the aftermath of 9/11.
Yeah.
Almost seems like the Piazza homer has kind of surpassed it. That's the first thing because of the significance of the first game, all that stuff.
Yeah. And the Mets were really more involved in post 9/11 recovery things in terms of like bottled water for rescuers and everything, because Shea was closer to the World Trade Center site than Yankee Stadium was.
Right.
And I know at the time there was even like bitterness because the Yankees, being the Yankees, always kind of are the big dog in town and get all the hype. And I remember reading, I think it was in Sports Illustrated or something at the time, about how the Mets were really like more involved in like sort of on the ground, like autographs and pictures for guys and doling out water and Gatorade and stuff because they were closer to it. So there was bitterness about that even from the beginning.
Right.
But then, of course, the Yankees went to the World Series, and you had George Bush throwing out the first pitch, and all that stuff. So
I think if the Yankees had won the World Series, then I think that just would have surpassed the Piazza thing by far.
Oh yeah.
Almost still kind of in disbelief that they didn't. It was all set up.
I know. I was there at Game 5. I left there convinced they were winning the World Series after Brocious hit the home run.
Yeah.
I thought it was a foregone conclusion that they would win it. It was like everybody did.
Then you had Rivera.
Yeah, Game 6, Pettit got lit up in Arizona, and then Game 7, Luis Gonzalez hit the little blooper off Mariano.
That was I'll remember that series as, and maybe it happened before, but for whatever reason that one jumps out. First time fans just stupidly waving white towels in the air for no reason.
Yeah, that Arizona.
Yeah, I think that started it. It might have started before then, but that's the first time I remember. Just fans deliriously waving white towels for no reason.
I made some joke about the whiteout when somebody was wearing white jerseys. I forget it was the NBA. Or no, it was hockey. It was the Phoenix Coyotes, I guess.
Yeah.
They were wearing red, and the Kings were wearing white, and they had a whiteout in Phoenix. And I was told that apparently it started in Winnipeg when they were the Winnipeg Jets, that they do the whiteout.
Yeah, they were all wearing the T-shirts of the visiting team. Or they're wearing the colors of the visiting team. Effective. Yeah. Nothing more intimidating than that.
Right.
But you want to hear 3 Rob Gronkowski stories from the ESPYs?
Sure. Did he keep his shirt on at any point?
These are all true stories.
All right.
First one, leaving the after party, walking through the hotel. And the hotel where the first after party was. And there's an elevator that people were going down. And there was probably people were walking kind of slow because you only one at a time in the elevator. So it's kind of clogged a little bit. And then there's an elevator going up that nobody was on. Gronkowski sprints down past all the people that are going down the elevator and sprints down the up elevator.
Escalator, you mean?
Escalator, I'm sorry. Sprints down the escalator. Then gets to the bottom and raises his hands and goes, "Yeah!"
Oh my God.
That. So that was one. 2, he's in the elevator, and a friend of mine was in the elevator. I actually witnessed the escalator one. He's in the elevator, and there's probably 10 people in the elevator, including one of my friends. He says to the doorman, it's this party that's going to be on the roof of some place in L.A., it's outdoors. Mm-hmm. He says to the elevator person, at this party, can we party with our shirts off?
Oh, my God.
And the guy's like, yeah, I think so. And Gronkowski turns to his buddy and goes, "Yeah," and high-fives him.
Oh, my God.
So that was the second one. Then the third one, which was also witnessed by a friend of mine. Gronkowski's in line for the bathroom. There's a line there. I don't know. There's 2 urinals in a stall or whatever. They're all waiting. Gronkowski's with his 2 brothers, who just looked awesome, and goes into the stall and then turns around to one of his brothers and says, "Crossies."
Oh my God.
The second brother goes in. The third brother goes in. And then there's some guy who's waiting, some small guy, and they're like, let's get him too. They grab this guy and they bring him in, and they all pee in the bathroom together in the stall.
Oh my God.
He is the greatest. I really think he should be a reality show.
If the 3 Gronkowski brothers cross streams at a urinal, is that like in Ghostbusters? Like if the streams cross, like just nuclear war happen or something?
Well, how about being the 4th guy?
I know.
And then you're trying to tell your friends after what happened. Nobody believes that story.
No, yeah, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good athlete experience right there.
He was the best. They're doing. He was everything you ever wanted from Gronkowski at any of these events.
You know, I got my copy of ESPN the magazine last week, and it was the body issue.
Yeah.
And I guess they had different covers for different areas, and I was in the Patriots area, I guess. So I opened up my mailbox the other day when I got home from work, and there was the ESPN issue, and it was a naked Rob Gronkowski that greeted me at the mailbox. And it's like full-blown nudity with just like a black spot covering strategic areas, but it was like his full body naked. It was like I subscribed to Playgirl. I was troubled. I had to like hide it from my daughter for fear that she would find it, and I had to explain some things about Rob Gronkowski. And I said to myself, and I said to my wife, because I said, look at this magazine. My wife was scandalized, said it was like near pornography. Of course, I had to like rip it out of her hands. But I said, probably 90-95% of the people that subscribe to ESPN the magazine are male, right? Wouldn't you say?
Yes.
And yet, like, they're marketing it with Rob Gronkowski almost fully nude on the cover.
It's a little curious.
Not really geared towards the demographic, I wouldn't think,
Yeah.
It was troubling.
You know what I've had just about enough of is the photos of people covering their privates.
Yeah.
And then pretending they're naked photos when they aren't.
Right. Well,
it's not a naked photo. You're covering your privates. You're not naked.
Well, they had like a jockey, and like some of them are, they try to do it artistically, so the person is bending strategically or, pretending to throw a discus or whatever, so everything is covered up. But they had a jockey who's just standing under a horse with his hand right there, like just blocking it. I'm like, there was no effort given to this one,
They should have had Greg Oden standing there with like a big guitar case in front of him, covering him up. Or a car. Yeah. The body issue. Where did we go? So we had the swimsuit issue and the body issue.
Yeah. I don't know where we go from here. I don't know what's next.
Maybe
I just hope whatever is next doesn't feature like a Rob Gronkowski where it's 3D in my mailbox.
Maybe body cavities.
Exactly.
So I'm assuming you're not that worried about the Yankees this week.
No, I feel pretty good.
All right.
Let me just ask you though. Tonight's a big night. The White Sox come to town, and Uke comes back, and Crawford comes back. And I was thinking to myself, and I said, it's a big night for Red Sox fans because they have an over-the-hill superstar who they don't know whether to cheer or boo. But enough about Carl Crawford.
Ah.
Thank you. I'll be here all week.
I'm ashamed that I couldn't stop myself from laughing at that joke.
Yeah, it's really two over the hill, washed up guys that Red Sox fans are ambivalent about. It's a big night.
Well, let me tell you something.
Who gets more cheers, Uke or Crawford? Uke by a landslide, right? I mean, Uke's going to get a standing ovation. Let's not kid ourselves.
Can't they support Carl Crawford a little bit? I mean, the guy got hurt.
I think there'll be a couple of cheers, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, especially with, basically where he's guaranteeing that his elbow is going to be blown out at some point, and he wasn't really like gung-ho to come back, it doesn't seem like.
Yeah.
You're just like, yeah. You're like,
it's just I'm bummed out.
You're like a beaten man. My God, it's like kicking a dog.
It's just tough. It's tough to spend $175 million on a team and you're 45 and 44. It's just tough to deal with. They have a losing record at home.
How about when Adrian Gonzalez hurt his back the other day, bending over to say hi to a kid in a stroller? You can't make it up.
No, you
You
really
literally
can't.
cannot make it up.
Well, Ellsbury's back. See,
Yeah.
I feel like they have to make a run right now.
Oh,
It
yeah.
has
If
to
they
be-
don't do it after tonight, when they have well, I guess maybe later this week when their little binky Pedroia comes back. When they have
Hey.
Pedroia, Ellsbury, and Crawford, and then there's no more injury excuses because the whole gang is back together again. If they don't make a run, then they're not going to. But they have a murderous schedule this month.
Oh, I know.
They play the
and
Yankees and they play the Rangers and a couple other good teams. The Tigers, I think.
they're 4 games behind the Angels for that
That's where
wild card
yeah.
spot. And away, and obviously, a
And
game.
they're only a couple behind the Orioles, who have the second spot,
Yeah,
I think, right?
2 back from the Orioles or game back from the Rays. But I mean, the Angels feel like the Trout is just
Oh, he's unbelievable.
he totally ignited them. And
That was the Yankees draft pick that they used to get him.
for
it
who?
was it was compensation for Teixeira.
Really?
Yeah. It was like the 25th pick in the draft.
I'm in that crazy league the American League, where we draft minor leaguers.
Yeah.
He was like a mid to late second round pick in that draft. Like his ascent was in like 4 months. All of a sudden, he went to like a potential franchise player in the minors. But as you said, he went 25th.
Yeah. He's from New Jersey. He's a huge Yankee fan.
The guy, he's one of the first guys I've watched in a while who, when he's on first base, you just feel like he's going to steal second. Like there's no question.
Oh, he's good.
You watch him, it just feels like, oh yeah, he's going to take second. It feels like he could have 100 stolen bases.
Yeah. In an age when nobody steals bases anymore either.
Yeah, it'll, they spent all this money on Pujols, and meanwhile they really didn't have to.
No.
Because they did Trout for this rookie contract. They easily could have geared the whole franchise and all the marketing around him. I think they knew he was going to be, really, really, really good. I don't think they knew this was going to happen.
No,
It'd be interesting to know if they would have spent this money on Pujols if they knew what they know now about Trout.
And how happy are they that the Red Sox outbid them on Crawford, to bring back an uncomfortable subject?
Oh, yeah, I'm going to switch subjects actually.
All right.
I don't want to talk about Crawford. Quickly before you go,
Yeah.
we haven't talked about Rizzo.
I know.
Getting a lot of emails about Rizzo. You were very, very hard on the Rizzo trade.
I know. Believe me, people aren't afraid to remind me about Rizzo. I feel like my whole career is tied up with his. I know I killed you on that Adrian Gonzalez trade back in the day, saying how you
Killed me.
hijacked Jed Hoyer, and there was some crazy Christmas party at Fenway that Theo had pictures of Jed Hoyer with a goat or something. So he's still loyal to the Red Sox, and you got Adrian Gonzalez for nothing, and you said Rizzo, and I'm like, Rizzo, and we made a joke about how we wouldn't be bouncing our grandkids on our knee talking about Rizzo.
No,
Turns
you
out
made
we
the
might
joke.
be.
I didn't make the joke. Don't
No,
let me
you-
into this.
No, that's true. I made the joke that I wouldn't be bouncing my grandkids on my knee talking about Rizzo, but it turns out I, in fact, may be.
Rizzo in AAA this year, 342 batting, 405 on base, 23 homers, and 257 at bats.
I know. The Cubs brought him up, and they couldn't get him out. He had a couple of game-winning RBIs, I think, and he hit some home runs. I'm not sure what he's done in the second half, but
Oh, I've been
No,
happy
he
to
was
tell
on
you.
fire.
59 at bats,
Yeah.
4 homers, 10 RBI, hitting 356.
oh yeah.
Pretty good start. I don't know,
That's
Johnny.
That's two things I was wrong about. I was wrong about Euclid's resurgence in Chicago, and
Yeah.
I was extremely, very wrong about Rizzo.
I'll tell you one thing. I think the Red Sox accept Chicago's offer of Adrian Gonzalez for Anthony Rizzo.
They do. I mean, somebody on Twitter made a joke to me the other day and said, if the Red Sox offered Gonzalez for Rizzo, who says no? And it's not even a joke because the Cubs would say no.
Yeah, I'm still mad at Theo.
They
I mean,
absolutely
getting more and more-
unequivocally would say no.
I'm getting more and more bitter at Theo.
Well, the thing that's interesting is that Gonzalez was going to be a free agent, and the Red Sox were so eager to go get him, they parted with Rizzo and some other prospects. I mean, they could have just overbid everybody and gotten him, but I think they were gun-shy because the Teixeira deal the year before or 2 years before.
Yeah.
So they're like, we have to get this guy now. They didn't want to go to the free agency process and potentially be, sandbagged or outbid. So they go and trade for him, and now Gonzalez is like he's a glorified singles hitter.
It was 100% defensible, except for the part that Adrian Gonzalez turned into a glorified single hitter.
Exactly. I mean, he has 6 home runs, for God's sake. He hasn't. I mean, he was on fire the first half of last year. It looked like a ridiculously lopsided trade, but since the All-Star break of last year, he's fallen off the earth. So his bat speed is down, according to scouts, inexplicably. And he's 28 years old, and he's bending down to say hi to a kid and getting back spasms that keep him out of 2 games.
He's 30.
Oh, is he?
It's even more worrisome. Yeah.
I thought he was 28. Oh, he's 30. Okay. That's more understandable then. I guess he's starting to go.
No, it's not understandable at all. He's a professional athlete.
Yeah, professional athletes should be able to bend down and without repercussions.
He hit 31 homers his last San Diego year, and everybody talked about how Petco was so hard for him to hit there.
A big park in Fenway, he'll hit 50, right.
He's hit 33 homers in 256 games with the Red Sox.
How many at-bats is that? Like a ridiculous amount, right?
It's 973.
Oh, my God.
Some trouble. It's a homer every 30 at-bats, basically.
Oh, my God. Yikes.
Yeah. Some trouble.
He hasn't hit one in forever.
Well, he's got 6.
Jeez.
You know what's a bad sign is I'm already more excited when Pedro Serracchio comes up than Gonzalez.
I know. He's like he's cooled off a little bit lately. I thought he was like from the minors, but he apparently had a couple cups of coffee with the Pirates. So he's sort of a journeyman, I guess. But yeah, the Yankees couldn't get him out that series last couple weeks ago.
My insane buddy Hench was so upset. Hench hates Nick Punto, I think, more than any Red Sox player ever.
Yeah.
He just thinks he's like a -5 to a player. He's terrible at every tool. And we went to watch him all season, and then this guy comes up and he's actually seems half decent. It was like, really?
Yeah.
We had to watch Nick Punto and we had this guy? This guy's semi-confident. Hench had a 10 really barrage. Really?
But Valentine Punto's a Valentine guy, though. He plays him an inordinate amount of time based on his stats and abilities, seemingly. But Valentine likes him for some reason.
Should it bother me that Valentine and the pitching coach don't really talk?
At all?
It's a serious question.
Well, I don't know. I don't know how much. Theoretically, the manager is supposed to be like your field general out there, and you'd like to think that his staff and he are talking about things and bouncing ideas off one another. And you'd like to think that, if Adrian Gonzalez is sick and can't play, he would tell the manager instead of telling the bench coach, in hopes that the bench coach might relay it by pass a note to Bobby V about it or something. It's a little troubling, but I don't, if a guy gets up to the plate to hit, is he like, oh, I can't believe Bobby's not talking to Gary today, And the Yankees, we were talking earlier about the Yankees of the 70s. They all hated each other, and they hated Billy Martin and vice versa, and they won 2 championships. So sometimes you can feed off that. Feed off your hatred.
Bullpen coach Gary Tuck, here's what Gordon Eads wrote. Tuck keeps his communication with Valentine to a minimum.
Yeah.
He is known to walk past the manager without so much as a hello.
I know. I like that part. I did read that article on ESPN. Yeah, just walk right by him.
Adrian Gonzalez had to come out after the second inning of Sunday's game against the Yankees because he was ill. He said something to Bogart in the dugout, but the manager said he was surprised to find out only afterwards that Gonzalez was feeling ill enough to require medication. It took me by total surprise, Valentine said. I saw he and Bogey talking about it, then I didn't hear anything about it.
Yeah.
That's it. That's troublesome.
Bobby Valentine just seems like he's lost. His press conferences when they lose, he just looks like a broken man. I think he's just look on his face like this isn't what I expected it to be after 10 years out in the wilderness. It wasn't supposed to be this way.
Valentine went out to the mound in Chicago for a visit with his pitcher. All of the infielders joined him for the conference except star second baseman Dustin Pedroia, who remained at his position.
Right. Well, he was Tito's, teacher's pet, so you knew he wasn't going to get along with Valentine. I've seen things where, supposedly the players, when they get their nose out of joint with Valentine, they run upstairs to Charrington.
Yeah.
And, of course, Charrington's job is just to get Lucchino coffee and make copies, so really they should skip the middleman and go right to Lucchino since he calls the shots.
Sandy Alomar Jr. finds all of this hysterically funny.
What about Gene Lamont? Has anybody called him to tell him he didn't get the job yet?
I don't know. It's a great question.
Your bemused laughter says it all.
Well, maybe it turns around tonight, Johnny.
Could be. You're getting the whole gang back. together again. So that'll
What's
be good.
today's date? July 16th, the day the Red Sox season turned around. Come on, Carl Crawford. Do your thing, baby. Here we come. Start looking over your shoulder.
Put some duct tape on that elbow and get out there.
Johnny, we'll talk to you soon.
All right, see ya. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So I get to sign off. Whoa.
Thank you for downloading the BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Too much fun.
Check out more podcasts at the iTunes Music Store or at Pod Center at ESPNradio.com.
Peace out.